Before Theodore Roosevelt told the world that the credit belonged to the man in the arena, life had already placed him there. He was born into privilege, but he was also born with severe asthma that often left him struggling simply to breathe. At 19, he lost the father he admired more than any other man. At 25, his young wife and his mother died in the same house on the same day. In his diary, Roosevelt marked the date with a large black X and wrote, "The light has gone out of my life." And yet the life that followed would become almost synonymous with energy, courage, struggle, and action. How did a sickly child, a grieving son, and a devastated young widower become the man who challenged generations to enter the arena? Theodore Roosevelt was not a self-made man in the usual sense. He was born into a prosperous and influential New York family. He was given opportunities that many Americans of his generation would never know. Those advantages mattered. But advantages are not virtues. Privilege can open doors. It cannot choose what kind of person walks through them. As a child, Roosevelt suffered from debilitating asthma. His father loved him deeply but refused to teach him helplessness. Instead, he challenged Theodore to strengthen the body that nature had not given him. Roosevelt answered that challenge through exercise, hiking, rowing, wrestling, and boxing. He did not choose his asthma, he did choose his response. Then came losses that no amount of exercise could prevent. His father died while Theodore was studying at Harvard. He was only 19. 6 years later, on Valentine's Day in 1884, Roosevelt's wife, Alice, died shortly after giving birth to their daughter. Only hours earlier, in the same house, his mother had also died. He was 25 years old. Grief did not bounce off Theodore Roosevelt because he was tough. It shattered him. He withdrew from much of his former life and spent extended periods ranching in the Dakota Badlands. The West did not erase his grief. Nothing could. But it gave him work to do, hardship to endure, land to cross, responsibilities that required him to act. The years that followed became a remarkable record of action. Roosevelt became a writer, a rancher, a boxer, a soldier, a rough rider, a governor, a vice president, a president, a conservationist, an explorer, a husband, a father. He devoted himself again and again to causes he believed were worthy. But that does not mean every action he took was wise. Roosevelt could be impulsive, proud, overly aggressive, and wrong. Action by itself is not virtue. A person can act energetically in the service of vanity, ambition, appetite, domination, or injustice. The question is not merely whether we act, the question is what we act for. In April of 1910, after leaving the presidency, Roosevelt addressed an audience at the Sorbonne in Paris. The speech was titled, "Citizenship in a Republic." He spoke about the responsibilities of free citizens, the dangers of cynicism, the obligations that accompany education and privilege, and the need to unite ability with character. Then he delivered the passage that would outlive almost everything else he said that day. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming. But who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who knew neither victory nor defeat. The most important words may not be dust and sweat and blood. They may be a worthy cause. Roosevelt was not praising activity for activity's sake. He was not telling us to stay busy so that we never have to think or grieve or pray or examine ourselves. He was challenging us to spend ourselves on something worth the cost. Our arenas will not all look like his. Your arena may be a classroom, a marriage, a hospital room, a family in grief, a business that may fail, a position of leadership, a struggle to remain faithful when faithfulness is difficult. The critic will always have the advantage of distance. The person in the arena must make decisions with imperfect knowledge, accept responsibility, risk failure, learn from mistakes, and continue anyway. Roosevelt also understood that courage does not mean refusing to learn. In the same speech, he warned against merely copying other nations, but he called it an even greater weakness to refuse to learn from them. That principle applies to us as individuals too. We should learn from history, from faith, from family, from teachers, coaches, opponents, from other cultures, even from our own failures. But we must do more than copy. We must take what is true and make it fruitful in the life we have actually been given. Roosevelt is often credited with saying, "Get action, do things, be sane, don't fritter away your time, create, act, take a place wherever you are and be somebody. Get action." Whether or not those are his exact words, the challenge remains. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Do not confuse criticism with contribution. Do not mistake inherited advantages for achieved character. Do not allow suffering to have the final word over the rest of your life. Enter the arena. Learn, act, fail when necessary, correct yourself, and spend yourself in a worthy cause. Theodore Roosevelt's life does not teach us that circumstances are unimportant. It teaches us that our circumstances do not answer the final question for us. The question remains, what kind of person are you becoming? Let us pursue happiness. Let us pursue virtue. This is the Virtue Playbook.